Here I am with Lynn Bell, world-renowned astrologer. Lynn, no pressure, but I think we're going to have an amazing conversation today.
Yeah, well, I certainly hope so.
I would love to dive right in and
Sure.
ask you the question, what is it you would most want to share with people at this moment in time, energy-wise, astrology-wise? Like now we're in February 2026 as we're having this conversation. What's hot?
Well, there's so much happening right now. And I think one of the things is it's true. We are changing eras and everyone feels it. Everyone is aware of what's going out down the chute. But it doesn't mean that everything changes magically in one day. And I think that's very important. We're in such a big period that we may only see what changed 9 months from now or a year from now. So there's so much going on, and there's so much thrumming and building to the Saturn Neptune conjunction, which happens on February 23 days after the eclipse and the Chinese New Year, that everybody's expecting an event. And it is, on the one hand, there is, and on the other hand, there isn't. And so it's a huge, it's almost be aware that the changes are coming in and they're working through every cell in your body. They're working through the neurological connections. They're working through the way that you connect to the universe. And it's disconcerting. And so, but one thing that I think is very sure, my mind went back yesterday morning to the triple conjunction of Venus, Mars, and Sun in January. So,
Yes.
yes, on January
Yes.
9th, and we haven't seen, a colleague of mine has done research on this, and there's no, in the past 100 years, it's the tightest conjunction between those three planets. They come into orb, but they're not on the same degree. They were within 20 minutes. And so we have the masculine, the feminine, lit up by the sun. And one of the things I've been feeling, I don't know if you've been feeling this, but Venus is having to deal with an awful lot. Venus cannot exactly be herself. There is this need to take into account this other energy there. So there's this need. It's not about balance exactly, it's more about imbalance. There's this need to deal with Mars. Mars, sort of the primitive form of the masculine, and Mars will be a dominant force for the entire year. It's not like it's just the conjunction in January or just the pile up of seven planets in April, but the whole year, Mars becomes almost a leads the dance in a way. And we're not used to that.
Lynn, Lynn, I have chills everywhere with what you just shared. I'd love to riff off of that if that's okay.
Yes, please.
I want to just go off the first point around we're wanting so much change to happen so quickly. Or we're feeling, oh my gosh, all these planets have shifted into new signs. We have the Saturn Neptune conjunction at 0. We have Uranus moving in April. Oh my gosh, it's the new. We're here, new Earth, new human. Yay, shouldn't it all look different in a day? So I just want to go. I am so hearing that. I'm so seeing that out in the world, and I'm even feeling it in myself.
Hmm.
And here's my take on it when I've been diving deeply into this moment and kind of the archetypal forces and my feels. And it's this, we're creating it now.
Hmm.
Like, like we're the decisions that we're making now, even just individually on a daily basis, we're
Yeah.
creating that new reality.
Hmm.
And it's, for me anyways, it's going to take time for it to physicalize, densify, and
Yeah.
even in my own body, I'm feeling it. Like it's so easy for my energetic body to shift, but
Mm.
then my mental body has to catch up, and then my physical body is like a slow, like, like,
Yeah, I think that integrating all of this or coming into it's almost too fast for us humans.
love that. Agree. Agree.
And it's so much at once. And we're in a state almost of permanent imbalance.
Wow.
And what happens, imbalance can be great because it moves us forwards or backwards. But it asks us to find a creative solution, but we don't get back into balance immediately. And
100%. And I think that's why we're seeing so much talk about nervous system right now.
right.
I've never heard more stuff about nervous system than I have in the last 6 months. Nervous system, nervous system. We need to regulate. Da, 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 nervous system. Oh my God, my nervous system. And I think this is part of it. Is it's happening so fast. That's how we're finding words to talk about how it's feeling for us.
Mm. Luckily, we have the cosmic language of the planets and the sign shifts to help us understand a little bit what's happening. But I think it's tracking the new things, tracking, suddenly noticing what you haven't noticed before
Mm.
is one way of connecting to the new energy. So there's almost like an observation. And I mean, we know already in the ordinary scheme of things, we know that Venus enters Pisces tomorrow. And, there's a lot of talk about how wonderful Venus in Pisces is, but, Venus in Pisces is all over the map. It's
No boundaries.
no
Like,
boundaries.
okay, no boundaries. I'm just getting walled by energy left, right, and center. I'm feeling everyone else's emotions on a shadow side. Of course, there's the
Of
other
course.
side of it, but I
Uh,
hear you.
and and there is that, whether it's up, down, left, right, you see those fish of Pisces swimming in opposite directions. So Venus in Pisces is trying to explore everything. So it's still got 1 foot backwards and 1 foot forward, or one
Yes.
fin, if you like. I like. Um, and then Saturn changes signs on Valentine's Day in Aries. Sort of, it's so inappropriate. I'm doing a workshop on the dark side of
So
Venus.
inappropriate.
Yeah. So on Valentine's Day, I just thought, okay, we have to honor this because there is a lot of talk in there is a lot of just sweetness and light, and I know that you work all over the Venus archetype, so that's not going to be a problem for your audience, right? To acknowledge, but really, how do we? I've been thinking a lot about Venus and the whole idea of Venus as um, the balance point within ourselves, the balance point that holds the world in a just system,
Mm.
and our relationships with others. So
Wow.
that's what's been coming up for me in the past few days, just as I started to think about, because I'll start to tune into something as I see you do, and you immediately, so I'm kind of looking at how these new forces rushing in, actually destabilize us so that we experience extremes.
Mm. It's like the destabilizing needed for the expansion, the evolution.
That's right. Yeah, and for the evolution, and there is the energy, the celestial energy is calling out Mars in all of us. Okay, so we know that.
So
And
loud.
so like,
Sort your shit out.
yeah, right. So this is kind of,
Evolve or die. No, your die part. But I love that we're getting into this territory, Lynn. Is it all right if I weave into this Venus piece? So I wanted to riff off of that first piece that you shared kind of in the opening around the change and the transformation and it not being immediate. But now I want to weave into the second piece that gave me massive chills when you were sharing, just like these truth chills of like, oh, this direction,
Mm,
let's talk about this, because I think this will serve a lot of us,
mm.
is that conjunction that happened in January, the Mars, Venus, Sun, and then how they're together for months, Lynn.
Yeah, they're walking. Well, they're midpointing the sun. They're on either side of the sun.
This
Like
is crazy to me.
it's very rare. It does happen, but Venus and Mars and the sun were together in 2020 when we had COVID, but not to this degree,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
They were
yeah.
walking with Pluto. Well, we saw what happened with that. Like, like
Right.
it's almost like they're ushering in our new awareness of who we are and what it is we have to do. Uh,
And I want to
so,
weave this into just really quickly for those listening, because this might be helpful, is when we
mm,
talk about Mars and Venus, they are such personal planets that they're so felt. We're so aware of them. And with the sun, this is my take, anyways. But with the sun, that's conscious self shining light, making this so conscious, these different aspects of ourselves. It's personal. It's personal,
mm.
is how I'm watching them.
Yeah, that's really an interesting way to talk about it because I think a lot of our attention is on what's not personal, on this
Yes.
big collective.
Neptune, Uranus, Pluto.
And it's kind of how are we feeling? How are we feeling as we move forward into this? And the thing is that Mars is behind now. So Venus comes first, and we're like, oh, welcome. And then Mars is there, like, what's dangerous? What can I look out? We're like, what's in it for me? Where am I going? So there's a two-step or maybe more than a two-step process going on.
Yeah, I I want to weave this in and get your feels on this too, Lynn, is right now, February, we're seeing Saturn, we just talked about this, Saturn moving into Aries, Neptune is in
Mm.
Aries. They're in the new, they're moving forward in the new.
Yeah.
April, we can say Uranus is moving into the new, into okay, yep, new, 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 new. Yes, great, loving it. But we're about to get Mercury's already gone back into Pisces. Venus is about to join in Pisces. Sun, Mars into Pisces. This is kind of like, to me, old territory where Saturn just was, where Neptune just was. I don't know. And then the Mercury retrograde is in Pisces in
Yes.
February. This is all in Feb. So it's like, yes, we want to go into the new, but all these personal planets are going, okay, but you're still holding on a bit.
Well, that's what's so interesting is that not only does Mercury go back into Pisces, but it makes two encounters with Mars. So it's like some part of our psyche is like, I don't want this new world. I mean,
Yes,
why do I have
yes.
to go? Why do I have to change?
Lynn, I'm so glad you're pointing to, we're talking about this and pointing to this.
Mm,
Why, there's some part of our psyche that's going, why do I have to go into the new? Why do I have to change? This is something that's known, and the
mm.
known is comfortable. Please let me have a little ounce of safety and security in the old and the known. I know that old saying, better the devil you know than the devil you don't. I hate that saying. But it's like there's a part of us that's maybe holding that, feeling that. I'm definitely watching it happen in the collective, in all the
Mm.
events unfolding. Just this like clinging, like, please, no.
No, let's not go here. Yes. And I, people there's a call for people to take big risks, right? And to move towards new things they haven't done before. And it can feel like a huge uprooting. And I think for some of us, there's a desire to just head back into the cocoon.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm. And fair enough. You know, so what's maybe important for people listening is to just watch which one is really running you. I mean, and it might even vary almost every day in these next few months. But there's so much going on in each of the signs that there's one area where that's being worked on for everyone, but not the same for everyone.
Yeah, yeah. If you, for those who know their birth charts,
Mm,
if you were to point people to look at a certain area of their birth chart, like how
mm.
you were just sharing, it's going to be different for all of us because we're getting hit uniquely. Is there something you could point to, like, look in your chart for 0 degrees of Aries? That's
Well,
probably
right
going to be a big
now,
deal.
yes, 0 degrees of Aries, but also the house behind that. If you know the houses, like where Aries is, that house is where something new is being engendered, you could say.
Ooh, ooh.
And so, most people will have a way to find out where that is. Um, but the one just behind it is also getting, for the next couple of months with all the Pisces lineup, getting a lot of activation as well.
Wow.
So it's a whole contiguous part of the chart. It's a run-on. It's not just one area for most people, but two. So, say for some people, it's going to be seventh and eighth house. So, it's going to be how I negotiate power in relationships, but then how I compromise, how I just like flowing in with the other person and not having to actually take a stand. So there's a combination area. That would be one example.
I I love this, Lynn. There's so many little tracks that I want to take from this point. I definitely want to dive into the feminine more. I
Yeah.
really want to open up to Venus a little bit more.
Oh,
Should we do that now? Let's do that now.
why not? Well, you're really good at that.
Okay, but I think you're holding a course on this.
Mm,
So I
yeah.
feel like you're kind of steeped in the energetics of this at the moment. And maybe we talk about the feminine in 2026, or I know I can share a few things of just feels and what I'm sort of. I'm also tracking Sedna and I'm tracking Eris,
Hmm. Mm.
but I maybe want to go in through Venus and what you're feeling, sensing around Venus and called to sort of hold space for and bring into the world right now. And then we can weave into some of the dark goddesses.
Right. Well, Venus is because the conjunction on the 8th, 9th of January was with Mars. And that's the Venus star point that Arielle Guttman has developed so beautifully in her work. That, you have this five-pointed star made by the Sun Venus conjunctions over a period of 8 years.
Yep.
So it's a whole new energizing of Venus. But again, with Mars, where Mars is in a sign where it's dominant. And that almost sets the tone until the Venus retrograde in October.
I've been watching that too.
Yeah. So in October, Venus retrogrades and goes backwards in Scorpio. Like so we have a so there's it's almost like there's a way that Venus has to function, which she may not be entirely comfortable with.
Wow, I like this. Can you give more words around that?
Well, again, when is Venus at her best? Right. And again, it's different for each individual. So we can talk about Venus generally, and we can talk about individual Venuses. But what would you say if I say, when is Venus at her best?
Oh my God. It's when I don't have to think, plan, organize, coordinate, get to a goal. My Venus is at her best when she feels like safe and can flow and move and like move a lot of energy and life force and just feel and emote. And I just am the beingness. I'm not necessarily the doingness.
Mhm. And things flow together. Things move
Yes.
towards you. The universe, when
It's
you're in connection with the Venus energy, the universe actually moves towards you. There's those wonderful things of the birth of Venus where flowers spring up with each step she takes.
Yes,
And
it's the magnetizing. Like you just
it's that feeling of the life force magnetizing. And so we know that Venus is really in her element when everything comes, right? So because Venus is with Mars, it's almost like she's pulled into doing a lot of the time at the moment. And that doesn't mean that in this first part of the Venus star, let's say. And then right now, of course, she'll go into Pisces, which is kind of a place where it's like, oh, thank God. I can kind of, and what is incredible is that the eclipse on the 17th, during that eclipse, which is in Aquarius, which is the first eclipse in Aquarius, Venus and the North Node will be exactly conjunct.
yes, isn't this beautiful? I'm loving this. I'm loving this, loving this, loving this. I think it's so stunning and so beautiful. Like the feminine is the doorway to the North Star.
Yeah, there is a way, there's something that we can contact in that time. Because eclipses are, they're both an experience of shadow, but they give an opportunity to let go of shadow. They can be either or. Sometimes when I'm working with people, I'll see that as they enter an eclipse period, they go through a 6 month period where there's a lot of shadow that comes up, and the corresponding eclipse 6 months later is the release moment. So we're, but Venus is telling us that if we remember her, if we remember how important love is and how important to be moved by love, then we'll navigate whatever appears at that moment just so much with just in a way that really moves our whole spirit, our whole self, our whole path.
God, I just don't even have words right now. I'm just feeling I'm like super in the Venusian embodied. The energetic, like, yes, just yes, yes, yes.
Mhm. Mm.
We're, we do these events maybe once a year, sometimes twice a year, and they're they're public, they're open to anyone and everyone who wants to join. And this year we're doing this event starting on the 17th.
Mm.
And just you talking there, I was like, oh gosh, I actually feel like we will be doing a lot of embodiment, a lot of Venus on the North Node on that day, kind of door opening. It's just, I
And
just
you know,
felt that in that moment. And that's also why I was a little bit speechless of like, oh, I see what's coming in this.
and you know what's extraordinary is that on the equinox, on the day the sun enters Aries, Venus goes stationary direct exactly on that same degree, 8 Pisces. So it takes us back right to the same place. And again, it's like remembering something.
Wow.
Yeah. The astrology of this year is spooky. It is so spooky. Everything seems to weave back and touch. Venus is with the North Node during the eclipse. Then Mercury makes a station just as the sun enters Aries on the same place. So we're reminded. It's like we keep being brought back to moments, almost like stepping stones.
I'm so very much feeling that.
Mm.
It's like stepping stones is the best way of saying that, but I feel like so many of us are waiting for this line in the sand of like,
Mm.
okay, and now we're gonna do. But I feel like it's like so many multiple lines in the sand and so many multiple. It's not a linear thing. It's a very like cyclical. But each time you come back around, you're like deeper or more in the new. I'm very much feeling that as well.
Yeah, and I think everyone will fit. And again, it's almost like sometimes the new will come in a very subtle form. And I was talking to a friend of mine who has Mercury at 29 Pisces, and she said, literally, when Neptune went in, I felt like a spell had lifted in part. I mean, she still has the transit because even though it's shifted signs, it's still there. But she said she just felt a shift, a very subtle shift, as if some part of her brain had been functioning again,
Wow.
or remembering something. And what I think is important for people is to maybe note this down, just say, this is new.
Ooh, love that.
This is new. I haven't felt this before. I haven't been here before. I haven't, because we feel it and then we forget.
Like, I love that you're just speaking embodiment. Like, you're speaking Venusian like the embodiment of it, not just like a flash of an insight and then it's gone. It's more like, okay, let me bring it into consciousness. Let me maybe write
Mm.
it down. Let me maybe even speak it. So it's like moving through my body in a different way.
Well, and there's the Venus instructions, and then there's the other planets crossing the threshold, So noticing, boom, noticing. Um, and in a way, being able to identify that. But we're talking about the feminine, and we're talking about the clues the feminine is leaving behind or offering us at these key moments. So
Wow.
Chinese New Year, the 17th, the eclipse, a few days before the exact Saturn Neptune conjunction, the fiery energy coming in. I mean, how to plan that day? And I think it is very, very important in planning the day to have a Venus offering
Oh, I love that.
because of the Venus North Node conjunction, to just in a way saying what is wanting to come in to support this very powerful feminine energy that can hold this extraordinary life force, which
Wow.
is wanting to rush in.
Wow. Lynn, I love that. When does your Venus course start? Are you starting on the 17th?
Yeah, it's just a webinar. No, it's on the 14th. It's on Valentine's.
Oh, you're doing Valentine's Day. That's beautiful.
Yeah. So it's a webinar on Valentine's Day. So,
Wow, I love
and
that. We'll put a link down below for anybody who's interested in that.
then the next day I'm doing for another group, I'm doing a webinar on the fourth house because I think it's so important at this time to find the places where we resource ourselves, and
Ooh.
the fourth house in the chart, which again, those who don't know astrology may not know what that means, but it is the place we begin, where we've come from, what we're carrying of the past, which forms a, but it's also a place where we come and meet um, a very still place,
Ooh.
an energy of source.
Isn't this so interesting, Lynn? So, for everyone listening, we'll also put a link for that below as well. So, on the
Mm,
17th is when we start our 3 day journey, which
yeah,
again, that's the thing that we do like once a year. It's open to everybody, but it's
perfect.
called Arrive. And it's about landing so deeply in that still place. We've been referring to it a little bit as like the ground of being, like arriving, landing in your ground of being, like your home space.
Yeah, ground of being. And ground of being is ready, ready totally for the new. Okay, ready to receive the new, which is that zero Aries energy.
Yes, yes, yes. I feel like it's from that depth, that ground of being, that level that we were able to access. From there is, for me anyways, and kind of what I'm going to open a door to for everybody, is to, from that level of truth, depth within self, move forward in life. The fire horse energy. Okay, now movement forward,
Mm.
create a new whatever it is. For each of us it'll be totally
Mm.
different, but I know for myself, I want to create from that place.
Yeah. Well, the fire, I love that there used to be in the much older Chinese tradition, the fire horse year, people were like, oh no, a woman born under the fire horse. No, like, and we're in a completely different place, right? But there is this idea that it gives that the feminine takes on a force that's absolutely that leads and moves forward from the Chinese tradition, of course. So
Wow,
something.
I love that you wove that in, Lynn. There's this wild. I'm just gonna open the door to it. We don't have to go here, but just this morning, I watch everything as it's weaving together in my world before I come into an interview, like a conversation with someone, or before I'm teaching, like kind of walking through the world very shamanically and symbolically, and like what's showing up, what's showing up, what's showing up. And this morning, for whatever reason, what was showing up was the feminine's response to the Epstein files right now. I didn't see that yesterday or the day before or the day before. It was literally hours before coming into this conversation with you, Lynn. And I went, wow, this is fascinating that this is what's like multiple places it's coming at. Like, I wasn't going searching for any of this. And so I don't know if you have anything to weave in, or like, I'm so curious to watch what the feminine in all of us,
Mhm.
what is she going to be doing this year? What is she already doing? What is,
Well, I think that if we look at the negative side of Aries, okay, and in some parts of the astrological tradition, Saturn in Aries has a difficult reputation because there is a kind of energy, I want what I want,
yeah,
and I'm going to make sure I get it. And last year I did some work on Saturn and Aries, and it is, one of the charts I looked at, who is a person born with Saturn and Aries, is Tina Turner. So you can
wow,
see how this relates to the Epstein file,
totally.
right? And Tina, who is literally this force of nature, right? She had Saturn in Aries, and it took her a really long time. I mean, when she left her marriage, she said she had 38 cents in her pocket. She left her three children and her marriage, and she was this star, but she could, and there was a moment she said, when she said no. That was
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
And so Saturn in Aries, if you think about it, I mean, this is the task of people who are born with it, but we'll have Saturn in Aries with us. We'll have this very powerful energy that can look as though the dominant forces in society are trying to impose their power, their force, their wealth, their money, their knowledge on all of us, right? And so, there is a task there that the Epstein file has opened to us, because, of course, that's what happened to all those women in many different ways, right? And many people were brought in, manipulated, sweet talked, charmed, uh, uh, and ended up finding themselves in situations where they were owned, possessed,
wow.
taken, where this act, where the Venus energy was stolen, if you like it, if you like, not if you like it, if you, energy was stolen, okay, of these young girls, um, and owned. Right? So and what that wakes up in us.
Yeah.
What did it wake up in you this morning as you were thinking about it?
Oh, that's such a good question, Lynn. It was, let me feel for a minute. I mean, it was an enormous amount of emotion around it. Like the opening a door to the pain of the feminine, just the pain. I don't know that I can go further because I didn't let myself go there because we had this conversation. I was like, this will be for me later. to really dive into. Um,
But it's interesting it came up this morning.
yes, very much so before our conversation today. And let me feel for a moment. Um, I'm hearing the Saturn moving into Aries.
Mhm.
I'll share a little piece, maybe I can weave this in just for those listening. When I was doing a lot of my initial archetypal embodiment, that's how I came to astrology, was really just embodying all the archetypes, some in
Mm.
astrology, some not in astrology. And when I was really working deeply with Saturn, it was the first levels and layers. It brought up, like the old boys club, the old patriarchal stuff, father stuff going on in myself, and all kinds of like crunchy, the stuff that Saturn normally gets this reputation for.
Yeah,
But I went further and further and further, and it was like, wow, this is a masculine archetype that can hold the fullness of the feminine.
that's right.
That to me is like that high level Saturn, and that's so possible in all of us, right? And dare I say the world at some point. Right?
Mm.
But it was so beautiful where I went very, very deep with Mars, very, 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 very deep. But Mars, no interest in holding the fullness of all of life.
No.
Not at all. But Saturn came to like almost a Shiva level of divine masculine, like all of it, every single feminine expression, every single form of life, expression of life, I can be present to and I can bear witness to. And not only that, but I can love it all. It was stunning to me.
Mhm. Well, Saturn, is because Saturn has that long stretch of time and holds things in the womb of time.
Yes.
And, in the myth, Saturn swallows his children. So he actually is a second womb. If you, like, you often see the myth.
Wow. Keep going, Lynn. This is amazing. I've never explored this aspect of
Yeah.
Saturn.
So Saturn uh, is a second womb if you think about it. In the myth, of course, he swallows his children because there's the story that he will be overthrown by one of his children as he overthrew his father. And so it's the swallowing of the other by fear. But you can look at that on many levels. There are always many levels to understand something. And the first child he swallows is Vesta, Hestia. It's his eldest child, is the feminine.
The
And
priestess, the
well, and
inner flame, home and
what
hearth.
she holds for us, the sacred fire.
Yes.
So it's quite interesting. She's the one that spends the longest inside Saturn, before, the youngest son gets him to vomit up all the children. Safe and sound, by the way. Okay. So it is
That's
something to think about, that there is a Saturn process that is not, um, it's more mysterious.
so we need the patriarchy to swallow a priestess.
I
And
think
then
that
that
it's
inner flame will cook them into being evolved and high level masculine expression.
we hope. Especially with all the fire in the sky right now, I would think that it's not just a tiny flame that they're swallowing, you know. But it is what happens when, there have been millennia where the feminine was swallowed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And there is, so Saturn in Aries could reawaken that desire for dominance, right? So where is our fire in response
Interesting.
to that, right? Do we go quiet? Do we disappear? Are we hidden in a deeper layer? Or does our fire rise to meet what's happening in the outside world?
Oh, wow. Wow, I love this, Lynn. So maybe I can just weave a little piece in just to add a few more archetypes into the conversation around the feminine. The two feminine archetypes that I've been staring at for months and months and months and months has been Sedna at
Hmm.
0 degrees
Gemini,
of
yeah.
Gemini and Uranus coming. It's like, and I feel like she's coming a little bit more into the collective consciousness. Like she's becoming a little bit more, not a whole lot, but more than I've ever seen before, as one that I'm watching. And then another feminine archetype that I've been watching is Eris, who's been dancing with Chiron forever. Forever. Like you,
Yes,
for
for a
me,
long time.
we have like the truth bombing feminine warrior who was responsible for starting the Trojan War
Mm.
on top of, I mean, Chiron is many, many things like all archetypes are, but we could say masculine wounding in one like weird, wild way. Of course, it's our wounded healer and it's all personal wounds to ourselves. But I've also watched it be an element of masculine in Chiron in different experiences and journeys into him, is that it will point to masculine aspects. Not always, but can.
Mm.
So I'm interestingly watching these two, could say dark goddesses, warrior goddesses. Sedna is a complete transformation. You know, it's a
Right.
complete death
She's
for a
her,
rebirth.
her
Yeah.
father chops her fingers off,
The
right?
father has to chop her fingers off. We could even say that that could be a Saturn representation, or the patriarchy has to cut her fingers off because she's just not letting go of her old life. But
Mm.
then this complete metamorphosis into just magic. You know, her fingers then become the sea creatures and she morphs from a human or a mortal into a goddess.
Right. But that happens. Again, it's interesting, the Sedna archetype with Epstein, because it happens through this trickster god who pretends to be one thing and isn't another, and
Yes.
another is something totally different who pretends to be a husband but really is a monstrous force that wants to take her.
Yes, this is so interesting to me.
Oh, it is interesting.
Lynn, I feel like you're on a very deep archetypal pattern in the human psyche that is coming to the surface
Mm.
around ownership, being owned. Can I say slavery, maybe?
Absolutely.
Do you want to speak to that at all? That's a tough one because it's still like, I think, hidden, buried, hard to shine a light
Well,
on.
it's been there for a while. Like traditionally in the astrological, among the signs, Pisces probably has the strongest connection to slavery, right? And of course, we know that the last time that Neptune went into Aries, the Civil War began. So this whole idea of this join, okay, between what is our vision of, is it one person who will always have authority and power over the other no matter what? Or or do we have autonomy? Do we have, so I think Saturn, Neptune in Aries poses this, and Saturn in Aries poses this question too.
Love that.
Like, okay, so, and we know that all the new tools in the world, the AI, they all have this potential for misuse. Um, but there's a lot of us, and not just, there's a lot of women, but there's a lot of humans who are not interested in this particular social form. Okay. And how do you wake up to that? And we say, a lot of people talking about the 35-year Saturn Neptune conjunction, we say, oh, last time was the fall of the Berlin Wall. But it was also Tiananmen Square, which shut down democratic protest
Right.
completely, like which put in a new system of control. But we can never really be controlled externally. And I think that's the work you do, this very deep work with the archetypal power uh, that emerges. Again, your theme for the 17th.
It's an ever deepening empowerment of self. It's an ever
Mm,
deepening sovereign self, an ever deepening being esteemed from within, like esteemed from something not external to
mm,
self.
yeah.
And I
But
feel like there's a whole new door opening to
yeah.
that.
Well, it's just like the pressure. The pressure requires us to respond differently. The external pressure.
I love this, Lynn. Yes, I agree.
Mm,
And I think there's choice in that. And we, to be aware of that, how there's an external pressure and to like pause, get very
mm,
conscious of it. What is my choice here
mm,
around this external pressure? Because there's always choice in how we move with it, dance with it,
mm.
avoid it, pretend it's not there, right? Revert back to old patterns, coping mechanisms, or respond to this external pressure of like, all right, this is happening for me, not to me. I'm not going to play victim of circumstance here. I'm going to go like, hey, like, what is the greatest level of evolution in myself or the greatest choice I can make? Like 2 months ago, or maybe a little less than that. Actually, it was maybe only 3 weeks ago. It was recently. I'm like, wow, time is really
This.
getting weird. I was really doing a lot of studying of the astrology of this year and watching kind of what's going on in the collective. And I was getting really bogged down. It was tough there for a few weeks, I would say. And I went, what is like my greatest thing that lights me up the most in this energy?
Mm.
Because I was very much getting pulled into, I don't even know, could have been like collective.
There is.
Yeah. And it was such a, it's so hard to bring words to it, but it was this very, very deep choice made in myself of this is what I want to do in 2026. And it was this really funny choice of like, I am going to stand in the greatest amount of magic. These are my words to myself. I'm going to stand in the greatest amount of magic that I can in 2026. That's what I'm going to do. Whatever's going on out there, that's going to be the fuel to this container I'm building in myself, around my, whatever it is that this is going to translate into. But it was this very like visceral choice point of
Right.
these external pressures, and it's not pretty right there. I mean, I'm in America. It's disgusting here. I'll be so
Right.
honest. It's so gross. It's so terrible. But it was, how am I going to respond to this?
Mm. Well, this is the thing that the whole Pisces period has been, our minds have been captured.
Wow.
Uh,
Yes.
there's a very subtle form of manipulation that's been going on, or not so subtle, but it's been so strong that it's as if we see different realities. There's a form of collective hypnosis.
Yes.
And Freud's nephew, Edgar Bernays,
No.
he is the guy who invented modern advertising. He took Freud's theories of the
What?
unconscious. And so we can use these theories of the unconscious to get people to do things. We, all right. So the thing is that there's been a lot going on that we're not even aware of.
Yeah.
Fears, our desires, our anger, our rejection, our longings have all been kind of invited down pathways that we would have never taken if we'd known where they were going in the beginning. And suddenly we find ourselves like not in a way believing things that we would have never believed. And so if when what you're doing, which is listening to the magic, listening to the inner choice, which I think is always Venus. Remember, we started with Venus's magic. It's always, what is it that the heart wants? Is this situation what the heart wants? Look,
And I
so
look at it also, Lynn, is this situation what the heart wants? And it's also, how does life force want to move through me? Like,
mhm,
how does it want to move through me? Like, how do I want to experience it that lights me up, brings me the most like bliss, joy, aliveness? As just another way for people to feel into that
right.
Venus feminine piece of like life is just moving me and it just happens to make it like the best experience ever.
But so that is so interesting because what we're seeing is, in a way, again, back to that triple conjunction at the Venus star point of Venus, Sun, and Mars, that we know that Mars rules Saturn and Neptune all year, that it has enormous power because it's basically speaking for two of the major players. And then there'll be so many planets, and Chiron is there, and Eris is there, and etc. But what can balance out that Mars energy? It's only Venus. Venus is the only planet that can get Mars to put down its weapons.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So the Venus power is even more important if the world goes in that Mars direction.
Wow, I love this, and I'd love to weave a quick example because I think it might make it tangible for people listening. I have a male friend, dear friend, beloved friend, and he's done a lot of archetypal work with me, a lot of masculine and feminine work. He's kind of who helped me found rewilding.
Mm,
And he will speak about his masculine and feminine, and he was a professional sportsman. He has a very strong Mars, very strong masculine essence. But he goes, if I don't come from my feminine when I make decisions and decide the direction I'm going, it's really bad. Like I source my like intuitive heart direction from my feminine, and that then I can put my Mars to work, but it's coming from this deeper sourced. For him it's truer, it's more aligned, it's more like soul for him, but it's coming from, we could say, Venus. This is the
yeah.
Venus, and then the Mars, and he's a badass out in the world, but the Mars is in communication with the Venus. So I just wanted to throw that in for those who
I think
listen.
that's so important though, and it is so important to remember this year that Mars disconnected from other aspects of self, and Mars needs also to be connected to the sun, it and to the moon and to Venus. I mean, there's a whole there's a lot of work I've done on that too, like sort of exactly. But when Mars has is connected, when Mars is just without connection, it's the berserker. It can be pure destruction.
Yeah.
Um, and with no sense of the other. And so that relatedness is what Venus brings. Venus is in relationship with all life,
Wow, that's just it. That's just it.
all life. That's why the flowers spring up with each footstep. It all, it all comes alive with her. So in a way, as we talk about this, because I mean, as you were saying, you were getting stuck looking at the astrological archetypes of the year, and they get, there's a place where they look scary.
Lynn, I
Uh,
do this every year. Every year I do this. This is the first year I've gotten sick from it.
wow.
Isn't that interesting? It was so interesting to me. Every year I do it, kind of like dive into the year ahead and do some podcasts and different things for our members and whatever. First year, I got sick this year.
Mm. So did you teach yourself this? Did you do all this self-learning coming
So I
into?
did an archetypal embodiment. I mean, I started doing Mary Magdalene work was my first archetype
Mm,
energy, and then kind of the dark goddesses came around, Black Madonna, all of that started to come around, and then I just dove into an embodied astrology,
mm,
like 2 year training. And I
mm,
said, I don't want to know astrology. I have no interest. This was literally me at the start of this thing. I was like, I don't, can I still be here? I don't want to know anything about this chart. I don't, astrology is not my thing, but these archetypes are my thing. Embodying them, opening up to all these different energies. And my system, this is for me. I know it. And
mm.
the facilitator was like, no big deal. Like, you don't have to know anything about astrology. Totally fine. By the end of it, I just, it was like, it almost
They
opened
were
up in my
alive in you.
body.
Yeah. They were alive in you. You felt them working through you. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then that just morphed into, I don't know where things are today.
Right. Right. So interesting. I don't want to learn astrology, but I need to have
I'm
it
just
in.
gonna live it. I'm just gonna be it. Like if I just look at a chart, I just become the chart. Like, oh, this is what's happening in me.
Mm, mm. It's a
Yeah.
great invention. So much of us. I mean, and I hope the people listening don't feel like, oh my God, what's all this jargon going on here? Because it's true that it is so much more. But we know that there are points that lead us to a whole cosmic experience and an energetic experience in our body. And we're not going to be receiving the universe along the same energetic pathways in during this next time, and particularly the first half of the year, but even even after.
Lynn, I'd love for you. I know we don't have a lot of time left, but I'd love for you to maybe feel into or share anything that you feel to. I don't know that, like, it would just be beautiful for people to hear when you were saying for this first half of the year and then the second half of the year. Can you, I don't know, maybe just share some insights or.
Well, one of the things that happens is, a lot of people are talking about the air age, which started in 2020 with the Jupiter Saturn conjunction in Aquarius, which is reactivated by everything happening this year. But this year is so fiery, so fiery. And it is, and with fire, we can burn too hot, we can use up what we have, we can empty out really fast. Like there's, how do you maintain it? We've all felt the fire of anger, the fire of passion. We've all felt, so it's almost being aware of that.
That.
And one of the things we talked about when we talked personally was Chiron entering Taurus in June, and uh, which for me is such another point in the year because it basically draws us back to how are we handling all this fire?
Ooh.
How are we, how's the body? How's the animal self? How's the animal human wisdom self dealing with all of this? Because I think on a physical level, okay, all so much fire, whenever we have imbalance, the whole idea of health in astrology is linked to the balance of the elements. And this is just not a time where things are balanced. It's just not. So you can't not go there, but if you go too far there, then you have to catch up. And so there's a constant noticing, and I think that that will help us. The body's wisdom will be incredibly important as we get to the second half of the year.
Mm, mm.
And then another thing happens, which is that the nodes will shift signs
Yes.
in the
Yes.
summer, and they'll step out of Pisces and Virgo, and the South Node will go into Leo. So that starts to actually work on stepping away from a certain part of the fire energy and seeing, because we could see some of the energy coming up as profoundly selfish.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, making that choice, what you're saying with how will the feminine relate to the Epstein, that profound selfishness, that
Totally. Totally.
profound selfishness. Uh, and the how that if we take from one, we take from all.
Oh, that's a truth bomb right there.
Mhm.
Like
And so there
mythical
they,
truth bomb.
and that is, I think the North Node going into Aquarius is an exploration of that. If one takes everything, what happens to all the rest? Mhm.
And something we didn't touch on is Pluto in Aquarius.
Of course, well,
There's so much. I mean, how could we
there's
touch on
so
it
much we
all?
can't
But
touch on everything, but that's, Pluto's been there since November 2024. And again, that is, um, how have you been feeling about that?
oh gosh, I feel like he's just getting started and I want it to go faster. Like, but it was interesting when all the personal planets went over Pluto,
Mm,
right? How we were talking about, the Sun, Mars,
yeah.
Venus, Mercury, they were all in Capricorn and then they moved into Aquarius. And then that's when they all went over Pluto. I think that's when the Epstein files came out,
Yeah, it was very close.
right? Right around that time.
It's so funny. I was following that because I had three separate friends who were in Egypt at that time,
Wow.
and some with the intention of a group of initiates.
Yeah.
They were there as each planet connected Pluto. Like, I mean, like, so I was thinking about it, um, following their journey in a way of how so much is opening up for us at the same time that the horrors revealed.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Also, other things are revealed.
Absolutely. And I feel like the revelations of both the horrors and the amazing things being revealed, but I'm also feeling um, I know when I went through my Pluto transit, whenever that was, like, when does that happen? Like late 30, early 40, some 40, I don't know. It was horrific. I mean, it was so humbling. It was like eat humble pie for a year and a half, Sabrina. And it was so good because it made me look at power dynamics and a complete reorganizing of almost the selfishness piece of power over versus power with. And I think
Yeah.
Pluto and Aquarius is power with. And I'm like, come on, man, like power with. And I was loving when he was like reorganizing Venus and then he reorganized, the Sun and Mercury and Mars. And I was like, can we go deeper, Pluto?
Yes, and that is, it's interesting to talk about that with the uh, node going into Aquarius, but of course the nodes start at the end of the sign and they don't get to Pluto until, yeah, so it's an 18-month journey. So by the time the North Node gets to Pluto, it's sort of, it gets more and more powerful, that journey. But the nodes in Aquarius and Leo do activate that selfishness piece. They do put it back in front of us, as do the planets in Aries. And those are just distortions of those signs. That's not what those signs are truly fundamentally about at their core. They're not about that.
Totally. Totally.
So we know that, and um, when I think of people who have been through these things, uh, and have stepped out of those distortions of the ego, like the need for power and dominance at any cost, no matter what. Wow. But, we humans are such an interesting collection of possibilities.
I love that. Like, we humans are such an interesting collection of possibilities.
Yeah, yeah, it's all there. Mm.
Oh, Lynn, I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours and hours, but I know we're right at time. And I'd love to just ask if there's any last thing that you feel to share in this moment.
Yeah, I think what's really important is that something is coming in that we cannot yet perceive. Okay. And that new points on the grid are forming, and it will be there. And no matter what it looks like, um, remember that that is there.
And no matter how aware we are able to be of it,
That's right.
remember that that is there.
Yeah, that is there.
Oh, I'm so
That
with
is
you.
there. And they're dropping in, and those are those notes we're taking. They're connecting us. And it's like a light that suddenly appears in the dark. Mm. So,
Lynn, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
thank
Thank
you for
you.
the conversation. I can see.
So
Yeah,
beautiful. We'll put all the links below to join
infant.
different things Lynn has going on, to join that rewilding challenge that we spoke about. Lynn, anything else to maybe invite people to, or just
Well, I actually am doing something. I'm still waiting for the link to it, but I'm doing a series of 4 classes on the astrology of the year,
mm,
beginning February 24th, with Carolyn Mace. Do you know
I love
Carolyn?
Carolyn. I
I mean,
love Carolyn. Yeah.
Carolyn's a very dear friend. I've known her for 30 or 35 years, something like that. And we're both from Chicago, although we didn't meet there. And last year we did a whole series on the planets entering the new signs.
Mm.
And so this year we're looking at, and I know that one of the classes we're going to be doing is on the martial spirit, on the, uh, and
Say a
we're,
little more about that.
well, we're going to be, James Hillman said that there's a martial aspect to the soul, and that it isn't, that again, it's one of the many possibilities of the human condition, that there is something in us that goes to war with ourselves, with others.
I love that you're shining a light on that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
So we'll be
amazing.
talking about that. It's a 4-part class,
Yeah,
and of course you can always take these classes and watch them later, so I'll probably have the link by tomorrow and I'll send it to your team. But
perfect.
um we're and then we're going to talk about the perfect prism that happens in the sky later in the year. But
Is this in July?
yeah.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we're like we'll have there are various chapters, right? So and I think I also sent this, but there's I'll be in part of a workshop in Greece in the summer in Amorgos, which is an
Ooh.
island not far from Santorini.
Oh,
Uh,
beautiful.
yeah, that'll be wonderful. There's a bunch of stuff.
I
And
love
people
it.
can visit my website and find out
I
what's
love it over there. We're in Ibiza in April running a
going
retreat.
on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, a priestess training retreat, actually.
Mhm.
How to
Yeah. Well,
channel light
so
in this new era.
talk about Vesta today. So that it's interesting that she popped up because I think she is part of all this fire emerging. It's really important to remember her
Yeah, I
holding the centerpiece.
I'll share an interesting thing about my chart. I have Vesta conjunct Chiron.
Uh-huh.
Isn't that fun?
Well,
It's taken me years and 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 a lot of work to be able to hold priestess training programs.
uh-huh.
Hmm.
Right. Uh-huh. Amazing.
So
That
fun.
is interesting. So there's an extraordinary wisdom piece around, where we're
Which was buried under a lot of deep wounding, Lynn.
a lot of wisdom that comes out of acknowledging that wounding in
Yeah,
yourself and others.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow, fantastic. Okay, we have to stop.
Yes, Lynn, thank you. Thank you, everyone who's been here. It's been an absolute pleasure. We'd love to see you in the comments or anywhere and everywhere that you could find Lynn and I.